Hey, greetings everyone. It's GleeCon, and I'm back bringing you another episode of Lore of Warcraft. Thanks so much for tuning in on this channel where we try our best to cover every single thing in the World of Warcraft universe, and sometimes that even qualifies as lore. On our last episode, we started what seemed like it was going to be a pretty successful run doing the Horde part of quests in Ashenvale. And then we got to a quest where you're kind of infiltrating the Furbolg Thistlefur hold. The quests themselves, for the most part, were fine and doable with a level 24 rogue. But then we really hit a wall trying to solo escort. So we ended up falling on our face, and we'll finish off that one on the next episode and hopefully get a partner to help us out. Because I don't think at our current level it's going to be soloable. We've also been reading the World of Warcraft Official Magazine, something that came out right in that transition period when the World of Wrath of the Lich King was wrapping up and Cataclysm was about to come out. Last time we spent a lot of time just covering a massive breakdown of Icecrown Citadel, the raid, and I think it kind of points to one of the reasons why this magazine quickly became defunct, because they already endorse Wowpedia. So since Wowpedia is an official World of Warcraft site, and it does so much of what this magazine was doing, and in fact, in a more responsive changing, because as some of the comments on this channel have already said, like, even now when we play Classic, the tactics are just night and day from the things they suggest in this magazine, and that's because with every little patch, with every little player innovation, things evolve. And I think that's probably, considering that's almost half of these magazines are made up of those strategies, that really left it without a rudder. And I think that's a reason why it didn't last more than 5 issues. But stay a while as we get another bite of that example. We're going to look at winning Warsong. So strategies for the battleground in Warsong Gulch. Now, this is one I did a lot at the time, so I wonder if my strategies that I recall from the day will match this. And also I wonder, for those that do it a lot now, I do it here and there, if the strategies seem to also track, or if they're just, again, completely different. Sitting between the lush forests of southern Ashenvale and the northern plains of the Barrens is Warsong Gulch, the front line of an eternal skirmish between the Silverwing Sentinels and Warsong Outriders. Sharing the honor with Alterac Valley as the first battleground to appear in World of Warcraft, Warsong Gulch burst onto the scenes in June 2005 as part of the Battlegrounds content update, patch 1.5, essentially the 5th wave. We still have not technically covered everything in the first wave with what we've been doing, just because it was so huge. Its straightforward capture the flag objective is deceptively simple, but even after almost 5 years of existence, there are still many spirited debates about the most effective way to play this battleground. The subtleties of the gameplay allow for myriad potentially effective strategies that can be deployed in pursuit of victory. With that in mind, Justicar Aelwyd and Peace of the Alliance, both Zul'jin US Warsong Gulch veterans, have been talking to a wide variety of PvPers to gain insight and perspective into how to succeed in this 10 versus 10 battleground. As always, they're looking beyond battlegroup-specific biases and common myths and misconceptions to really understand the fundamentals of this battleground. Here are their findings, presented in a back-to-basics format designed to help Warsong Gulch players understand the wide variety of tactics that can be used to win, and indeed see some of the less effective behaviors and tactics that can weaken your team's efforts. I would actually say that this is probably the one that I am the best at, or I used to be. So again, you're going to just capture the flag in a 10v10, 25-minute match. You have to be level 10 or higher, and they have brackets for twinking. The win condition is the first team to capture 3 flags wins. If the time limit expires before 3 flags have been captured, the team with the most flag captures wins. If both teams have equal flag captures when the timer expires, the last team to capture a flag wins. Okay, and here's a little picture of an orc. I don't know what their hand's kind of glowing. That still could kind of be anything. Looks like they've got some male-ish kind of armor, so it could be maybe a shaman. Warsong Gulch is all about looking at what's going on and being where you're needed, says Peace. All right, so the basics. This used to basically be me. I was the troll rogue. So divide and conquer is one of the most effective strategies in any battleground. In Warsong Gulch, that's especially true. So for preparation, is always use the free mana time before the gates open to buff yourselves and others. I hate having to say this, says Peace, but it always surprises me how many people forget to buff even themselves. Because Warsong Gulch has relatively small teams playing against one another, even the smallest advantage can help. So buff up and get yourself and your team operating at maximum efficiency. Check out your teammates and try to get an idea, this is for team evaluation, of which ones might be able to fulfill particular roles. Ailwig suggests, look for the toughest and most resilient character to carry the flag, and try to find players who might be able to support him or her. A healer and classes with good crowd control to slow the enemy are ideal for this purpose, like a shaman. Suggest that those players run together to grab the flag, then suggest the rest of the team try to intercept enemy flag carrier and be ready to support the group as they move across the battlefield. Now, I would say that rogues and druids can buck this trend because of their ability to do sprints and especially for druids, shapeshifting. A little leadership at the start of the battleground can help focus the team and get them started on the right foot, especially if the direction is clear and straightforward. The initial rush. Because of the way Warsong Gulch is designed, you'll almost always have the Horde heading to the Alliance base on the east side of the map and the Alliance approaching on the west side. Sometimes players will peel off and start fighting in the middle immediately, but that's not the most effective strategy. Warsong Gulch is all about capturing the flag. Don't stop to fight unless you're forced to, says Ailwind. Attack the flag from the get-go. There are two main ways of getting to the flag, through the base entrance on the upper terrace or the tunnel in the middle of the battlefield. Either is effective. The key thing is to watch where people are going and stick together. Indeed, therein lies the first Warsong Gulch fundamental. Divide and conquer is one of the most effective strategies in any battleground. And in Warsong Gulch, that is especially true, says Peace. In most situations, assuming reasonable gear and skill parity, if you have a larger group of people running together than the opposition, you can deal with pretty much anyone in your way with no significant problems. Yeah, because those small numbers really limit that. Like, you can't get zerged as easily. Communication also is key. As in most battlegrounds, communication is key in Warsong Gulch. Because of the intimate size of Warsong Gulch and the general simplicity of the layout, you can get a very good idea of the battle situation simply by looking at your minimap and the position of your teammates on it. However, the most important details to communicate are the things you can't see. Communicating enemy movement and the details of the enemy flag carrier situation can really help your team make the right collective decision, says Ailwind. If there's a big enemy party heading towards your flag carrier, call it out. That way your team will know two things. Your flag carrier might need to find a better place to hide if they've only got a couple of people protecting them, and the rest of the team will also know that the enemy flag carrier is lightly defended. Likewise, if the enemy flag carrier is on the roof with 5 others, everyone will know flag recovery will require a big group moving in together. Okay, now what are the don'ts? The Warsong don'ts. Defending the flag room. Defending the flag room is a tactic that can sometimes be effective, but it's very risky, as Ailwood points out. It's not a particularly reliable strategy because it's so situational. If the enemy is attacking in small numbers, you only need 3 or 4 people to defend effectively, but that soon comes undone if the enemy attacks in numbers. It's actually fairly easy for an enemy player to run in and pick off the flag if they have any kind of speed boost effect. I used to do it all the time. And once they're out of the flag room, they're gone. What makes things worse is that any enemies killed will spawn back in the enemy graveyard, making it easier for them to support their inbound flag carrier, and making it harder for your remaining teammates out in the field to catch up with and take down the enemy flag carrier. If you want to adopt a defensive strategy, controlling the midfield gives you a lot more options. Misreading the situation. A common mistake players make is to not really think about what's happening in the game, says Peace. Warsong Gulch is all about looking at what's going on and being where you're needed. For example, if you're in a situation where both teams have the flag, sitting in midfield fighting the enemy is really not going to do your team much good. Either defend or group up and go in and attack the enemy flag carrier. Not anticipating. Warsong Gulch doesn't require a huge amount of anticipation, but one thing that's really important to constantly consider is the enemy killing your flag carrier while they still control your flag. Obviously, if the enemy flag carrier is in their flag room, there's not a lot you'll be able to do to stop them from capping. But if the flag carrier is out on the battlefield, there's a lot you can do. Experienced Warsong Gulch players are always watching the battlefield conditions. They're the ones making a beeline for the flag room ahead of the enemy flag carrier to save the day in the event that your flag carrier goes down, says Ailwind. Rogues and druids are particularly good for this since they can camp out nearby without being seen, but pretty much anyone can save the day by planning ahead and getting to the enemy flag before they can cap yours. Yeah, see, that's why I loved it, because since I mained a rogue, this was just, there's so many opportunities to shine. Divided and conquered. Like, I've done all the achievements. I've done the ones where I've capped all 3. I've capped and retrieved a flag and capped a flag within a minute or whatever all the old achievements used to be. Divided and conquered. With teams being relatively small, it's very easy for players to become separated. If you do, and if the enemy is rolling together as a group, you'll quickly be overwhelmed. Aylward points out if you decide to defend, you might have the best intentions, but if there are only 2 of you and the enemy grabs the flag, something that's very likely, there are now only 8 people between them and their flag room. It also means that they now have 10 people on the battlefield and your team only has 8, meaning it'll be harder to defend your flag carrier and harder to stop theirs. Try to group up. If you're going to defend, defend in numbers. If you want to dominate the middle, make sure you stick together. As soon as people start wandering off doing their own thing, your team becomes weaker. All right, so it looks like, I don't know, we're going to see some more strategies here. I was going to say, how much more can we talk about? Looks like an undead rogue and a Tauren. I don't know what that guy is, but he's a Tauren. There's a trap back here, so maybe he's a hunter. You can also sort of see like a blood elf here, maybe a mage. All right, so here's some more strategies for the flag carriers. Capturing the enemy flag. Who should grab the flag? Aylward reckons any character with high survivability is the obvious choice, so plate wearers, druids, and discipline priests are ideal. Discipline priests? I guess they have so many bubbles. But that's not to say most characters can't carry the flag successfully if they're properly supported. Peace agrees. It's definitely all about the support. Even the toughest character won't last very long without backup. Also remember that some of your class abilities in getting on your mount may cause you to drop the flag. Learn these and avoid them or use them strategically. Effective support means basically doing one of 2 things. Healers should be all over the flag carrier offering direct support. Throw every healing spell you've got. Use whatever dispels you have. And crowd control high threat targets every time the cooldown's up, says Peace. Try to keep up with the flag carrier. Your teammates might be getting killed, but it doesn't really matter as long as your flag carrier survives. Yeah, one of my favorites, I used to have a team where it would be me and a druid, and it was kind of like just double dipping. The other 8 could control the center and support as we ran back, but we could even support each other because we could both be on sprints depending on whoever had the flag, and then I could be using hard interrupts and crippling poison, and they could be using roots and other things, cyclone or whatever, to cap off or to help if we were getting pursued. If you're not a healer, you should be concentrating. And I used to I was an engineer, but I used to just get potions all the time from the vendor and stuff like the swiftness potions. If you're not a healer, you should be concentrating on keeping the heat off your flag carrier, Aylward explains. Use everything you have to slow down and control the people hitting the flag carrier. Don't worry about their healers. The priority is letting the flag carrier get away from the enemy. So look at what's going on and slow down the most threatening enemies as much as you can. Exactly, which rogues excel at that. I mean, a lot of people really do. A lot of classes. When you're supporting your flag carrier, killing people is less important than peeling enemies off of the flag carrier. Yep. Using crowd control on someone attacking your character will be faster and more effective than trying to kill them. Likewise, don't worry about players fighting on the sidelines if they don't pose a direct threat to the carrier. If you picked up the flag and see another player who might be better suited to carrying or holding the flag, suggest that they take it. Coordinate your drop and make sure there are no enemy players around. Recovering your flag. When it comes to taking back your flag, you have 2 priorities, the flag carrier and the healers who are supporting the carrier. I often see people getting distracted and fighting different enemies, says Aylward. The priority is capturing the flag. So go after the flag carrier, slow him down and hit him as hard as you can. Even the toughest character doesn't last too long under focused fire. If you see the characters getting healed, look for the healers and crowd control them. Most flag carriers will always keep on running, so if you slow down the healers, the flag carrier will quickly get out of range and be more easily taken down. Peace has more advice. Anyone capable of dispelling and purging the flag carrier should do so. Any character without buffs is pretty much a sitting duck. Just don't let the carrier get away. Keep your eye on the flag carrier prize, and don't stop to fight other enemies. If the enemy is successful and manages to carry your flag back to their base, recovery should become the priority. First, locate the enemy flag carrier. Those who can stealth, use mind vision, or track humanoids can be really helpful here. Aylward advises the most important thing is to group up before you go in. Call out where to meet. 2 good spots to group up are at the tunnel into the enemy base or on the ramp. Sometimes it's hard not to get impatient waiting for people, but the bottom line is to go in together. If you attack in dribs and drabs, you'll easily be picked off. Sometimes you need to make a judgment call whether you should chase the enemy flag carrier or go grab their flag. If you feel you won't be able to kill the carrier, nab their flag and regroup. Defending your flag carrier. If you're carrying the enemy flag, try to avoid a route that takes you by the enemy. As you run to grab the flag, notice whether the enemy is stopping midfield to fight. Many of them will likely be rezzing in their graveyard by the time you get the flag. So it may be better to run back down the tunnel, or if they're following you up the tunnel while you grab the flag, keep going. You could run up to the second level and keep going out the door and down their ramp. Again, communication is key. And I've won both ways. If your teammates are telling you where the enemy is, you can more easily avoid running into them. If you're carrying the enemy flag, the obvious thing to do is go to your flag room, sit on the capture point, and wait for your teammates to recover your flag. However, Peace advises caution. The flag room is quite exposed, with 3 ways for the enemy to approach and attack. You have various line-of-sight options, but even so, it's not the best defensive position. If there are only a few of you guarding the flag carrier, the roof can sometimes be a more effective defensive position. Absolutely. There's only one way to attack it, up a long ramp, giving you plenty of notice of incoming attacks, and you can line of sight very effectively on the roof. Who should help defend the flag carrier? Obviously, a healer is absolutely necessary, and the more resilient the better, advises Peace. Any character with slowing or other crowd control abilities can also help. Druids, Hunters, and Rogue can be particularly strong thanks to their combination of comprehensive crowd control spells and high DPS output. You need to be able to control the situation and kill people quickly. When I'm carrying the flag, the one tactic I like to use to buy time is to run laps out of the flag room, up the ramp, take a left turn, then jump down again into the main flag room. If everyone knows what I'm doing, allies with slowing abilities can make it really difficult for the opposition. Melee can't keep up with you, and ranged attackers are constantly running into line-of-sight issues. A lot of the time, this tactic can spread out the enemy, letting your team pick them off and buying you time to heal. Just make sure you don't isolate yourself. Aelwood says running to the graveyard can be a good idea. Every 30 seconds you'll get a batch of friends resing to help you out, Peace adds. Just remember, if you're carrying the flag or defending the flag carrier, try to communicate movements to the rest of the team. If you're expecting support from those resing in the graveyard, they may be more likely to stick around and help you if they know you're heading there. While going to the graveyard can sometimes be a game saver, only use this tactic in an emergency. The problem of being in the graveyard is it can take a while to get back into the flag room to make the cap, and in that time the enemy can quickly steal away your flag. Once you're back in control, head back inside immediately. Okay, and here they're showing kind of some of the places you can run through the tunnel off, and then come out off the side and jump down. You come out from the tunnel if you're Horde, and come into cap by going back through the tunnel. Working as a team. Whether you've joined a game alone or you're working with a pre-made team, these tactics are tried and tested approaches to winning through Warsong Gulch. It's fine for a few players to stay on the battlefield while other players grab the flag, but make sure you all group up as soon as the flag carrier emerges from the tunnel. Moving together is vitally important if you're going to effectively recover your flag from the enemy. See, and as a rogue that I was never about that. I was more about use the mad mobs to distract and slow down the big masses, and go in with just 1 or 2 support. Tactic 1, the group that stays together slays together. One of the most effective strategies is also one of the easiest to execute. Simply move together as a group. This basic strategy is devastating against an enemy team that lacks organization, says Peace. As soon as the gates open, everyone heads to the enemy flag room. Once your team has the flag, you then move as a group to intercept the enemy flag carrier, and once you've recovered your flag, you head to your flag room and cap. Aelwood points out, the trick is to stay together. Sometimes it's tempting for the flag carrier to peel off and make a break for it, but that splits your team. The whole point of this strategy is to stay close to maximize AoE heals, damage, and crowd control effects by forcing everyone to fight in a very small area. But it also lets the other team do what they want. They can peel off and really harass you, and you won't be able to cap because they'll take your flag. If you die, run straight back to the team. If you stay together, you'll be extremely effective with this strategy. How to avoid becoming Warsong Mulch. Like all battlegrounds, Warsong Gulch can sometimes present you with tough challenges to deal with. Some situations are extremely difficult to overcome, such as if you're up against an extremely organized team, or your team seems to be lacking experience or indeed the right kind of gear. Nevertheless, there are situations where if the team is willing to work together, you might still be in with a fighting chance. What to do if the opposition turtles. Occasionally, you'll find yourself in a situation where the enemy tries to close down your team by dominating the midfield, or clusters in their base to defend the flag en masse to prevent your team from a potentially game-winning capture. Most Warsong Gulch veterans call this the turtle. Unfortunately, there are just some games that end up in a turtle. Pretty much the only thing you can do in that situation is leverage the safety in numbers rule, wait up, group up, and move together to burst through the midfield. There are few blockades that can't be broken by a large group moving together, advises Peace. If you're dealing with an enemy-based turtle, it's all about focus firing the flag carrier. Remember, everyone who the flag carrier targets Move in together and let rip with an old-fashioned assist trade where everyone focuses on the flag carrier without exception. One way to attempt to break a turtle is to have your team group up at the Berserker hut, grab the buff, and then make a beeline as a group to the opposing flag carrier. Have one player, ideally one who can stun or snare, at the bottom of the flag room in case the carrier jumps from the roof. Communicate with your defensive group who have the enemy flag around the time you think you're going to cap it so they can be ready. You don't want the enemy to grab the flag right after you return it. Yeah, one thing I gained on my last level with my rogue was a big passive increase to trap detection. I think that only applies for PvP, basically. All right, Tactic 2 is called the Midfield Mob Rule. Intercept the inbound flag carrier on your way back to the base. Concentrate on taking out or incapacitating the healers and isolating the flag carrier so he or she can be dispatched quickly. It's definitely all about support. Even the toughest character. Yeah, we already read that. Controlling midfield is another very good strategy, although it requires a little bit of team flexibility and good coordination and communication. The objective is to control enemy movement across midfield by having a group of players moving together laterally across the midfield to intercept the enemy. Meanwhile, a small group of players run the flag back and forth. I recommend starting with a flag team of 3, says Aelwyd. The 7 remaining players should position themselves in a loose group across the midfield to control the enemy's movement. Adaptability comes into play if the enemy starts to defend their flag room in numbers, so get ready to assign more players to run with the flag team if needed. Otherwise, this tactic's pretty good, especially against a team that isn't moving around in a group. Stuck in the middle with you. I can't tell you how many games I've played with my teammates simply run around the middle of the battlefield fighting whoever gets close to them, says Peace. This can be a viable tactic if people are truly working together to control the middle of the battlefield, but it simply doesn't work if you're not going after the enemy flag or supporting your flag carrier. Remember what the goal of the game is. Look at the minimap and be aware. If your incoming flag carrier doesn't have support, go and help him or her out. Otherwise, your priority should be to stop the enemy flag carrier. If you're not doing one or the other, you're really not being an effective team player. A team of individuals. Sometimes you might find yourself grouped with a bunch of players who have difficulties functioning as a team. In this situation, what can often happen is that player becomes frustrated, starts calling out one another's bad actions, and the whole thing degenerates into a my faction sucks fest. What I've found over the years I've played Warsong Gulch is that players often respond to a positive request for help when you talk to them personally. Sure, it can take a few seconds to whisper someone, but actually a lot of the time that personal tell can help focus enough of your teammates to tip the balance in your favor, says Peace. Approach people who are trying to organize things. At least you know they're of a like mind. I found that once you get a few people moving together, other players will join up. It's a fairly simple group psychology, but it can yield results. The worst thing you can do is get frustrated and start yelling too. It almost never yields positive results. A group of 7 or 8 horde can lock down the alliance team by staking out this area. So in between the hut and the entrance. Be prepared to chase down individuals running out of the tunnels or down the ramp. This is kind of like a line of sight breaker right here. Kind of group up behind this and zerg it. So tactic 3, graveyard shift for the horde or the alliance. This is the horde and alliance side. The alliance players should patrol this area to ensure horde players can't get out of their graveyard. Don't forget to let your healers grab the leaf to mana up so they can keep everyone alive. That's one of the things I like about this is the little buffs too. This is a more extreme version of the midfield tactic. It doesn't make the game fun for the enemy, says Aelwyd, but it is very effective, and I used it often when I was running with a very strong pre-made team. As soon as the gate opened, 8 of us would immediately run across the battlefield and engage the enemy stragglers, while our most resilient player and healer would go for the flag. Once we'd kill the back markers, we'd take control of the area in front of the enemy graveyard and lock it down. If the enemy managed to capture the flag, we'd simply group up with our flag carrier coming out of the tunnel and go after the enemy flag carrier. As soon as they were dead, our flag carrier and healer would continue back to our base, and the 8 attackers would head back to the enemy graveyard again. Let the healers use the leaf in the hut nearby to replenish their mana, and you can easily establish a high degree of control over the enemy in this way. The most important thing is be adaptable. Regardless of how effective you know your starting strategy can be, the best thing to do is always watch what's going on, communicate, and be adaptable. I mean, that's pretty much the main strategy for every single PvP. If you're not working with a pre-made team, you'll always need to keep in mind the composition of your team, and not everyone will have PvP gear, and there will be varying levels of experience within the battleground. So try to work within the limitations of your teammates and make sure your recommendations are counters to the enemy's team actions. All right, and here are some victory songs. More advice from other Warsong veteran. Mind vision is just great in Warsong Gulch for tracking down a lurking flag carrier. Just get within range of the base, type target the flag carrier's name, and let it rip with your mind vision to see exactly where he or she is hiding out. You can then let your team know where they need to go, says often on the US server Zuljin. I like using the tap and go speed buff flag grab. Run over the boots, run into the flag room, quickly click on the flag and keep running. If you time it right, you can grab the flag with barely a break in stride, and make a quick getaway before the enemy can react. It says Torinish from the US server Kill Jaden. For mages, sheeping players quickly off their mounts will quickly halt an advancing group. Renetti on the US server Tichondrius. As soon as you see who the enemy flag carrier is, or if you're defending who your own flag carrier is, target that character and make him or her your focus. That way you can easily keep track of the flag bearer. It says Manxa of Moonguard. That must be maybe a guild, a European. Crowd controlling the enemy's flag carrier is a great stopgap. I've sheeped the enemy flag carrier as he or she is about to cap it, grabbed the flag, blinked away, and handed the flag off to someone with more health. It's a good way to give your teammates time to get your flag back. Mochia on the European server, Shadow Song. Warriors, charge, intercept, intervene. Use these abilities and you'll be the best flag runner around, says Tarzuil of the US server Feather Moon. Free action potions. Saffron, part of the Venture Co. guild in the US. When chasing, or maybe that's a server. When chasing a flag carrier from behind, do not ride through his escort trying to reach him. Ride parallel to the group and then cut the flag carrier off from the front, says Telemon of the US server Bloodscalp. I just had one of those moments where I remembered, like, all of a sudden it hit me like an intense wave of, like, this, I don't know if you'd call it nostalgia, where, like, this dream that I had, it just came back to me. I don't know what did it. Nothing to do with this at all. It just, it's like, stopped me in my tracks, hit me in the gut. Yikes. Not a bad dream. Just, a dream of times gone past. If you're a warlock, you can go to your opponent's second floor above the flag, summon your demonic circle, jump down, grab the flag, and then teleport back up to your circle to prevent those on the first floor from following you, says Fallon Chaos of the US server The Scryers. Start spam clicking the ground around your flag carrier when he or she's about to die to snatch the flag before the opposing team. That can be annoying when people get lucky with that. Carinth of the US server Spirestone. I often sacrifice myself, run into a group of several enemies, and drag them to one remote side of the map so that the flag carrier can run to the other side. It's amazing how blindly people will focus on getting a kill while the flag goes right past. Helps if you use some emotes too, says Targets of the US server Cenarian Circle. It's true. If you're carrying the flag, do not run on your own away from your team's flag escort. They are there to protect and heal you. You can even recapture the flag in case you drop it, says Light Slayer of the US server Silver Moon. If you have a healer following you after you've capped the flag, don't grab the speed boots and run off into the enemy crowd. It happens all the time. Zarathan on Tichondrius in US says that. I use Baby Spice when running the flag to make myself small and hard to click on. That's that Northrend cooking quest thing that you can get. Targets of the US Cenarian Circle. 2 words, tailoring nets. I've never utilized that. That says Remedy of the US Tichondrius. Hand of Freedom, your flag-carrying bros. They will like it, says Imperata of the US server Stormreaver. Having enemy health bars on lets you see and target players through walls. It's useful for spotting a flag carrier who's hiding. Igena of the US server Stonewall. Dropping Earthbind Totem in the enemy graveyard puts them in combat, so they can't mount to catch the flag carrier. That's wicked. LaJoel of the US server Oceandune. If your team is going up your tunnel with the enemy flag to score, don't follow them. Instead, go up your ramp to cut off potential enemies from trying to sneak out the top with your flag at the last minute. Yeah, I agree. It says Jacopo from a US server, Jules Nerub. All right, so now we have an advice column. It looks like we have a goblin, like Mad Bomber here. For engineering, the Crafty Crafter's Guide to Engineering. If you like making crazy devices and things that go boom, this is the profession for you. Well, it's the only meta profession in Classic. It's kind of sucky. Do you like to make things? Do you like to blow things up? What if you could do both? What if you could move to the other side of the world in a flash without a Hearthstone or a summons? Or repair your gear without a vendor? Or get mail anywhere? Or have your own personal butler? That's why it's so popular. Not to mention rezzing. I loved it because of goblin jumper cables. I was a rogue that could res. People loved it. Sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? What if you could do all this and have fun? No, really? Then maybe you have what it takes to learn engineering. Rocket across the world. When you're an engineer, distance isn't the obstacle it is for mere mortals. Visiting friends in Blade's Edge, but need to be in Storm Peaks immediately? There's a tool for that. Have a pressing engagement in Gadget Stand, but you're in Black Temple? There's a tool for that. Any skilled engineer can make a wormhole generator to zip around Northrend, although it must be said that since this is very experimental technology, there might occasionally be the odd drawback or two. But let's not dwell on that. It's just the price of progress, right? Goblin engineers can make dimensional rippers to transport to Area 52 or Everlook, while Gnomish engineers have ultra-safe, sure, transporters for Gadget Stand and Toshli Station. Jeeves says, if you're a shaman, set your Hearthstone to Dalaran and consider using the Glyph of Astral Recall to reduce that spell's cooldown. A shaman engineer can be as mobile as a mage. It's close. For shorter trips or just tooling around town, engineers can make personal transport devices including a turbocharged flying machine and the awe-inspiring Mechano Hog. For Horde engineers, the Alliance version is the Mechgineer's Chopper. Yeah, it's great because you can carry allies around. The motorcycle has the bonus of a sidecar, so you can give a buddy a lift while you cruise around Dalaran. I've used it so much carrying my wife around through the years. And good news, but now you can use the Sandstone Drake. That's worth whatever I paid on the auction house for it. I don't remember, probably 100K or something, I don't know. And it's just because my wife never completed any of the achievements, so pretty much all zones that I had the Traveler, Path of the Traveler, whatever it is that you can get flying in that expansion, she would never have it. So, and good news if you're considering opening up a motorcycle shop. Both cycles can be crafted and sold to other players as well. I have that on my current character, who is a leather worker, and I just buy them on the auction house. It's worth whatever you can pay. Sure, it's experimental, but a wormhole generator will quickly get you where you need to go. And you can also build snipers and guns. There's a dwarf using a sniper. There's the chopper, one of the... you buy those too if you're an engineer. Mandatory. I'm trying to remember what I am with my characters that I have now. I have a warlock, then I'm an enchanter tailor, and I'm a blacksmith with my other person. I won't do that. I will do something else for when we move on to the Wrath of the Lich King. Although engineering is super fun too. I don't remember. She's an alchemist, I think, on one, and a leather worker on one, so we'll max those professions up. When we move to Wrath of the Lich King, we'll have to try some other stuff. Access and repair your stuff anywhere. Engineers are not tied down to mundane services like city banks and mailboxes. Why skulk around Dalaran when you have Scrapbox, Molly, and Jeeves at your disposal? Scrapbox allow friendly players to repair their gear wherever the bot is dropped, which is particularly useful if you're in a far-flung instance. Molly works the same way, just for mailboxes instead. The height of helpfulness, though, is that perfect gentleman and robot butler Jeeves. Constructing Jeeves gives you access to your bank and a vendor every hour. He's perfect for those long mining trips where it would be a drag to fly back to a city to sell your junk and drop off your booty. And this is before it was so popular to have like the repair mounts. But he can be used inside the dungeon, which is even better. Let your friends know when you summon me, says Jeeves. I can buy, sell, and do repairs for them, but I'm not around forever. I'm a busy robot and I really must go in a few minutes. It's not strictly repairing, but non-healer engineers can revive fallen comrades by using goblin jumper cables. Making the cables requires a goblin engineer, but any engineer with the requisite chops can use them. Hunter, rogue, and mage engineers have ways to escape death when raid and dungeon encounters take a wrong turn, and that makes them great cable carriers. That's right, because you can either, like I could vanish and then res the healer with my jumper cables. It's just so OP. I've done it back in the day a million times. Create strange and wonderful items and pets. All engineers can make devices that inspire awe, wonder, and maybe a little fear in friends and enemies. A fully equipped engineer can blow up things, siphon energy, and even summon pets. Some of the lower level explosives can be used by non-engineers, but the really good stuff is a professional perk. Serenite bombs are the top of the line and often put to good use by serious raid teams, helping add extra damage into their normal spell melee routines. Global thermal sapper charges are a goblin specialty and come in handy during winter grasp engagements. A zap throttle mode extractor turns those strange clouds you occasionally see floating around into crystallized elements of air, fire, or water. If you're carrying one, the clouds show up on your minimap just like ore nodes do for a miner. I didn't even know that. I don't know why that escaped me. Jeeves says the mode extractor is one of the better ways to get eternal fire. Fly around Sholazar Basin, siphon some clouds, and soon, Basin, you'll have a stack of it. No killing necessary. It's a good idea because if you're maximizing the professions, you need so many of those. It's not all siphoning and blowing up things for the skilled engineer, however. Pets are a big part of the package. Gnomish engineers can make some combat helpers, notably the battle chicken with its fearsome battle squawk buff, but many prefer the quiet life with non-combat pets. Give someone a tranquil mechanical yeti, and you've got a friend for life. Mechanical squirrels are also popular. Engineers can also make specialization-specific pets. Little Smoky for Gnomish engineers, Pet Bombling for Goblin engineers. Help your friends and customers do more damage. You're probably not going to get rich by taking up engineering. Most of the cool stuff you make is either bind on pickup or usable only by other engineers who probably make their own toys. That's why they and you picked engineering, right? All is not lost, however. You are not on an island churning out devices for a small but dedicated audience of one. You're a particular friend of hunters, since you can manufacture several high-end varieties of ammunition, both bullets and arrows. Ice blade arrows, shatter rounds, mammoth cutters, and serenite razor heads are all significant damage upgrades to the vendor-sold projectiles. Although anyone who can wield a bow or gun can use this ammo, only engineers can make it. All right, and one of the things that's neat about engineering is you have to choose if you want to be goblin or gnome. Engineers have two paths to follow, similar to the choices faced by alchemists and tailors. Do you want to specialize in goblin engineering or gnomish engineering? Admittedly, in Wrath of the Lich King, the differences are not large, but you'll be shut out of the other side's recipe, so there are consequences to the decision. Broadly, the goblins are good at making things that go boom, while the gnomes make shields, guardians, death rays, and things that are potentially spectacular but occasionally backfire. For most engineers these days, the decision comes down to transporter destinations. Everlook in Area 52 versus Gadget Stand and Toshli Station. And ultimately, whether you want your toys to blow things up or do something a little more avant-garde. Jeeves says, Gnomish engineers can make ice blade arrows while goblins make shatter rounds. The recipes for these are found in Ice Crown Citadel, require Ashen Verdict reputation, and carry a fairly steep price tag. If you're one of the first on your realm to get the recipe, you can reap a pile of gold. Engineers can also make guns and scopes, which are modifications that improve certain stats on your ranged weapon. Although engineers don't currently make bows, the scopes they make work on bows as well as guns. The guns are popular with hunters naturally, but your local warrior tank could certainly use the armor-plated combat shotgun with its defense-oriented stats. Getting supplies. Engineers can't make something out of nothing like mages can. The busy engineer needs supplies. Most of the ingredients needed for engineering recipes can be supplied by a friendly miner, though it wouldn't hurt to make the acquaintance of a leatherworker or skinner. If you have a free profession slot available, mining is probably your best bet. Yeah, and then you need a leatherworker ally. Upgrade your wardrobe. It's not all fun and games as an engineer. Sometimes you have to roll up your sleeves and go out and make things dead. To achieve this end, engineers can make goggles, belts, trinkets, shoes, and cloaks. The headpieces are among the best in the game, at least until you start some serious raiding. Besides the great stats, engineering gear often has great on-use capabilities. The Electroflux sight enhancers, for example, allow you to see far into the distance, which can be a boon in battlegrounds. The well-dressed engineer doesn't just walk into battle with off-the-rack gear. Oh no. Any engineer worth of the name tinkers with his or her gear, improving the stats and sometimes adding useful abilities. The mind amplification dish attaches to your helm, adding stamina and the chance every 10 minutes to try to mind control your enemy. Nitro boosts go on your feet and increase your run speed for 5-second bursts, sort of like having a rogue in your shoes. There are tinkers for gloves, belts, and cloaks as well. Get to the chopper or to the hog. Either way, it's one of Azeroth's sweetest rides. All right, so this, I think we'll stop here. It looks like we're going to have another community thing. It's like they do this once or twice per issue where they do kind of a advertisement piece. I'm thinking we're going to finish this issue on the next episode. It'll be the last time we do it. This one looks like there are these kind of cool resin figures you can do to make your character like they were wanted posters. I've never even seen anything like this, but it looks pretty neat. The problem with stuff like this, well, it would be cool to have, and it's not that big of a problem. It's, your character's looks completely different every 2 years. All right, well, that's it. We have another episode in the pipe, 5x5. Thank you guys so much for watching, for tuning in. I appreciate you. You guys are awesome. Thanks for all the subscribes, the comments, the likes, and I can't wait to see you guys on the next episode of Lore of Warcraft. Peace.